guys, welcome to Hercules, and today my book review video will be on a book named Hatchet by Gary Paulsen. So it's a 3-time Newbery winning award author, and also special thanks to my teacher Miss Hartthorne for making this video possible. So let's get in. So Hatchet is a book where a 13-year-old named Brian Robinson's parents have divorced, and he's going to meet his dad through bush plane in the northern Canadian woods. In midair, his pilot dies, which leaves Brian alone in the North Canadian woods. I'll just specify the main points of this book, because I don't want to spoil every detail for you. So our book begins when Brian is at an airplane hangar, and he meets his pilot. His pilot isn't really the talkative kind of person. For the first 3 hours, the pilot was like, "These are the only 5 words he said in the last 3 hours," the author said. "Get in the co-pilot seat." So, the next big point is that 3 hours later, when Brian is given a chance to minorly control the plane, while the pilot was taking control of the switches and all of that, he was getting a heart attack. And then Brian knew there was nothing he could do, so he knew he was eventually going to crash in the woods. Brian took control of the plane. Then our next big thing was that Brian crash lands near a lake shaped in L, and he's stranded, and he thinks that search and rescue will come by late night. Then our next big point is that Brian learns how to build a shelter, but he still is starving, and he only has dirty lake water to drink. So at this point you may be thinking, poor Brian, he has nothing around him. But then Brian, being a couch potato, gave him a big advantage. So, you know how couch potatoes watch many shows and all of that? Yeah, so Brian watched this show about people making it into the military, and then how they needed to do the survival test. And then, using the facts from the survival test, Brian figured out how to live by using nature instead of waiting. And then our next biggest point is that Brian figured out how to take control of nature, and Brian is at the peak of survival. But then here's a problem that connects to our problem. You know how I said there was a lake all of a sudden? So about that, a lake usually spawns tornadoes in northern North America. So first a moose jabs him in the chest. That's gotta hurt, right? And then a tornado spawns, ripping apart his shelter, and Brian was clinging onto a branch. Then Brian, sad but desperate to live, rebuilt his shelter, figured out how to store fish, but this time, instead of waiting like he did before, just drink lake water, they'll come at some time. Yes, he was still waiting for them, but at the same time he was focusing on if nobody finds you and you're stranded, what will you do things. But luckily, all books have a happy ending, and this book did too. At the end, he gets a survival pack from the plane, and then he And then a search and rescue plane gets him, and that's all of the big points in this book. Thank you for watching Hercules.